Hi everyone, and welcome to
KAPOW Overpaint.
where I take your drawings and explain how you can improve them in just 5 minutes. I'm Luca, a professional illustrator, and we're gonna be using what I like to call the
KAPOW
method, which stands for critique, plan, operate, and win. This is the only method you'll ever need to know in order for you to identify and fix all the mistakes in your drawings. In this video, I'll be showing you how I used it to turn a viewer's drawing from this to this. Want to learn how? Let the overpaint begin. Okay, so Bones and Blues submitted this image, and it's got a few issues. Now, especially if you're a beginner, keep this in mind. Critiques will sting a little bit. Don't hide in a cave, don't cry. What we want to do is identify the major critical points of the image, so we can then plan out a strategy to improve them. Now, the first step of a good critique is a vibe check? No, for real, let me explain. Let me present to you the fun machine. That's fun for fundamentals. Its purpose is to check on the health of your picture's fundamentals, which, as you know, determine 90% of an image's success. That's 3D form and perspective, anatomy with a focus on the face and the hands, and finally, lighting and value design. If you ain't got these three down, you should still consider yourself a beginner, and the only way to get better is to practice.
Bruh.
But let's get back to business. Before even starting the critique, let's see if our image passes the fun machine vibe check. And it's not great. We'll break this down in an easy way, so we can tackle each point separately, starting with 3D form and perspective. As you can see, most of the structural lines in this drawing are actually correct. But what about these tiles? Something feels off about them. Well, they all have different vanishing points, and that's impossible. Think about it like this. We can simplify a room into a box. The tiles are just perspective lines on the lower plane of that box. Next time you have to draw a room, just imagine a perspective grid all over the walls. Or next time you want to draw a cube, just imagine a Rubik's Cube with its black lines as perspective guides. So let's make a quick fix. There. Now the tiles on the floor follow the same perspective as any other line of the building.
Nice.
Okay, let's move on to anatomy. Now, the character is fine, but there's a few things off about her. First of all, I think her head is way too small and tucked in way too much inside of her shoulders. Something else that I notice is that her balance doesn't seem natural. She doesn't look like she's leaning on the wall, more like hovering around it. And finally, the left leg is bent way too much towards the outside. Just try and take a picture of yourself in the same pose. It's not gonna look like that. So we're gonna try and get some good reference for this kind of pose. Moving on to the face, what I think it lacks most is a bit of structure. I think the artist should go back and really study the forms of the skull, the bones, and the muscle and fat tissue that makes up the face. Here, I just did a quick drawing of what I think the head should look like. But for the final product, I'm still gonna need to grab some reference with the correct angle. Finally, let's tackle the third fundamental. Let's get on to lighting. First of all, we need to have a very clear idea of the lighting setup in my image. Taking out the color information from the image makes it much easier for me to understand the real value structure. We can clearly recognize that there's a main light source in this image. That's the window. That's illuminating the mannequins on the floor and some of the tiles. But the rest of the image is not very clear. It seems there's a secondary point light that's coming off from the upper left and hitting our character and the mannequin in the back. The secondary light is an issue because it has a similar intensity or brightness to the window light, so it will produce similar values that are going to be competing for our attention and confusing the viewer. If we look at similar pictures, we can see how the values of these places are structured. the brightest values are concentrated from beyond the window, coming into the room with the light rays and hitting parts of the room, while everything else is much darker, especially the secondary light and what it hits. So I tried making a very simple drawing as the original picture, but with a different lighting structure, much closer to that of my reference pictures. As you can see, there's no color information yet, but the image is much clearer. Now that we've addressed some of the major fundamentals issues, I'm asking myself, is there anything else I can improve about this image? And honestly, two things come to mind. The first one is color. This image is kind of warm, but it doesn't have a distinct color identity, and the colors are a bit muddy. What I will usually do is look up some images where the colors are the right mood for my picture and just copy them. These references from before will do just fine. Something else that doesn't quite convince me is the composition. Right now, the elements are kind of randomly scattered and the image doesn't have a great flow. Remember, what we want to do is play with big, medium, and small shapes and have an image with a good visual flow. This means using arrows and circles, just like YouTube clickbait, to guide the viewer's eye around the image. And here's what I came up with for a new composition. And the critique is done. Let's take a good look of everything we've done until now. I suggest keeping these guides as a rough estimation of the final image. You want to keep looking at them from time to time, hovering around your canvas as a reminder of what we want the final result to be like. I think we're finally ready to tackle this image, and after some work, here's my result. It's not a finalized image, as there is too much detail that I would have to spend too much time on, but I still think it improves just about every aspect of our original image. And here's a comparison between the two. And finally, a side-by-side. Okay, let me know what you think. I'd love to know what you would have changed about Bones and Blues' image, and especially if you learned anything else in the process. Now you can go and apply it to your own drawings. I'd love to make more of these videos, so if you have a drawing that you would like me to go over, just send it over Instagram or Reddit at these handles. I'll select a few and post them in a future video. Thank you for watching.